She founded an architectural concrete company.
He founded a $100 million clothing company.
She took the world by storm as a social media star.
He took the world by storm as a famous serial entrepreneur.
Together we started a business.
And had babies.
Now we're figuring out the best ways to do both.
Join us as we learn from other entrepreneurs going through the same life struggles.
As they share their life hacks about success, love, kids,
and everything in between.
Hey, Bryan, welcome to the Pretty and Punk podcast. So good to have you on here.
Thank you very much for having me, guys. I'm super excited. I was fired up when you reached out to me. So it's an honor, a privilege. I'm glad you guys reached out.
Yeah, I'm glad we got to have you on. I know you had me on your podcast not too long ago.
Yeah, that was
so And so it was nice to be able to return the favor and pull your knowledge out for our show. We were talking about it, and we said, hey, we really need to get an expert on here. Mm-hmm. An expert dad.
Right.
And you're an expert in more than a few different ways, because you've had people on your show and you have two kids yourself. So
yeah.
You're the expert.
I don't know if I'd call me an expert yet, but
we think you're an expert.
Mm-hmm.
So why don't you tell us a little bit about why you started your show in the first place? Because that's, I'm sure a lot of our values align for the reasons why we started our show. Why do you think you started your show?
Well, it's interesting. I've been through my kids. I have two boys. My oldest is 21. My youngest is 19. And their entire lives, I was very involved. I coached every single one of their teams all the way up through high school. I'm still a high school coach at the high school, but my younger son's now into college. So I've coached every single one of their teams. I can't even count on one hand how many, I can count on one hand how many parent-teacher conferences, performances, whatever it is that they had to go to or I had to go to. I just didn't. The reason that I started my show is because my boys are grown now. They're off into college. My older son's going to graduate college tomorrow. So they're kind of off doing their own and doing their own thing. And I kind of felt like a part of me was dying, even though I'm still involved and we're still a family and we're still very close. I felt like something was going to be missing. And it was that being involved dad, that kind of like that part of me was going to be missing. And so, the interesting thing is I happen to be sitting down with, my brother-in-law, right?
Right. In fact, your brother-in-law, we should say that your brother-in-law is Ed Mylett.
Oh yeah. For those of you that don't know,
famous parent entrepreneur also. And I should say he takes some credit for helping you start this show.
Right.
Yeah. He was the one that suggested I do it. He goes,
really?
He goes, Bryan, the one thing that I do know about you is you are by far the best dad I have ever met. So he said, you really need to think about doing a dad podcast. And the crazy thing is, we were sitting at his Laguna house out on his back patio. And I said, that has never even crossed my mind, Ed. It's never even crossed my mind. He goes, well, give it some thought. He goes, there's plenty of different ways you can go with it, but how about just interviewing dads about their experiences? And
so valuable.
I thought that might be, he goes, that'd be a way that you could give back, because you'd be providing value to other dads.
Right.
And you'd be hearing from some other dads, some, high profile dads that could kind of give you their opinion on how they're, going about their dad life or their dad experience, going through their dad experience. But, I said, yeah, that might be something I might want to do. So I thought about it that night. I thought about the next day. I talked to my wife about it. She's like, yeah, that would be great. You need to do something like that. And the rest is history.
I'm so happy that you went through with
I reached out. Yeah, there's a
great.
bunch of dad podcasts out there.
Mm-hmm.
I reached out to a couple of those guys and said, hey, how are you doing it? How are you doing it? What are you using to get started? What are you using to record? I did a lot of research. It took about a month or so for me to get all the research done and get everything set up to how I was going to do it. And that's it. I had one of my assistant coaches, or he's actually the head coach. I'm the associate head coach, but I had him at the high school. I had him as my first guest just to kind of get my feet wet,
Yeah.
Right.
And then hit the ground running from there.
Yeah, you've had a bunch of great guests on your show. I've seen them, including myself. And no, just I was probably the worst of the guests. I can remember that I was trying. I mean, I think all dads, and I think it's the reason why we started this show. We really wanted to show, and you've interviewed a bunch of entrepreneurs too on your show. So not that I don't know what your experience with as an entrepreneur. I mean, you're an entrepreneur now with your podcast show,
right?
But it's kind of a later in life you've become this entrepreneur now, and but I think so. You understand this though. We wanted people to understand, even though your kids are kind of going out the door now. We want people to understand that they could start a business and raise kids, and it's harder than ever. There's no real work-life balance. It's not like a perfect balance, but sometimes it leans one way, sometimes it leans the other. I'm sure even having a job early on, raising your kids, how's that dichotomy played out in your life?
Well, let's talk about the work-life balance for a second. Nothing's perfect, right? There's not going to be that perfect balance, like you said. There are going to be sacrifices you're going to have to make. For me, I was in corporate America pretty much. I started off out of school in the Marines. I went in the Marine Corps for 4 years, and then I got out and jumped right into corporate America. So I was in corporate America the whole time my boys were growing up. I was just fortunate on my end that I had a job that allowed me to have the flexibility to participate in their sports and be a coach on their team and go to their games and go to their practices. So I had a job that allowed me to do that. However, I will say this, there were times where it was an inconvenience for me because I had to put my job first, because that's what put food on the table, right? Yeah. It was an inconvenience to me to have to go do a practice or hold a practice for them or go to their games. But what I did to accommodate that is I went into work earlier so I could get off earlier. I mean, there were some mornings that I was going into work at 4 o'clock in the morning just so I could make sure I could get out by 2 to be at their games. And if I had to do that 5 days a week, I would have done it. It was just that important to me. If my job ever told me, I'll be honest with you both. If my job ever told me, you can't do that, we really need you here, you've got to be putting in 15 hours a day, I'm sorry, this is the way it is, you're not going to be able to coach, I would have said I quit. I would have said I quit, because my kids were more important to me. And it's just, for me, God bless, and, God bless to me. I mean, it worked out, you know what I mean?
Right. Yeah.
But, for others, I mean, even for you, Dan, it can be a challenge, right? I mean, you as an entrepreneur, you don't necessarily have that steady paycheck coming in. You got to really be out there busting it. And so I feel for guys like you that really have to try to find the balance between your kids and then also, hey, okay, when do I draw the line and I really have to be out making things happen?
I mean, that's the kind of issue, right? We go into entrepreneurship. Where
the wives have to step in, where that your husband cannot, make the game or whatever it is. And you have to, as a wife, support your husband, because more than ever your husband wants to be there. Right. But you have to let your kids know that, your father wants more than anything to be here. But he needs to put food on the table, and then we have to thank God for our blessings that we're able to eat and have the roof over our head. I think that's kind of where the wife needs to step in.
I still find it challenging because there is that issue that we get into entrepreneurship, and for some reason, I mean, there's a lot of reasons we get into it, but for some reason we get into entrepreneurship to have that free time. We always believe we're going to have that free time at some point, but we don't. We build more issues for ourselves. It's like, we have free time. Oh, well, let's build the company bigger then. Let's get more customers. Let's grow the company. Let's get more employees, so we build more issues for ourselves and more time consuming projects. So, that's always been an issue. I know you've interviewed a lot of entrepreneurs. What have you seen out there? What are other entrepreneurs having difficulty with when it comes to that?
Well, a lot of them are having those types of difficulties, but one of the things that they've really fine-tuned is their schedules, right? We always talk about, you got to have a schedule. through your day, through your week. A lot of them plan that up front. They plan that, on a Sunday night or whatever, they put their schedule together for the week. So the difficulty comes in a lot of these guys travel too, right? That could be another challenge for them. They have to they have to travel, and they got to be gone 3 or 4 days out of the week, or 2 weeks out of the month. But scheduling is huge for entrepreneurs, and I'm sure you're realizing that, Dan. I mean, scheduling is very important. You schedule your workouts, you schedule your meetings, you schedule your conference calls, you schedule your sales calls, you schedule your trips for your business trips. You have to schedule your family time. And I've talked about it a lot on my show. You have to put that in there. You put that in there, and you don't sway from that schedule with your family, you'll make it work. And hey, maybe you have to cut back a little bit in other areas. Some of your free time may be gone. I talk to dads about their free time with, even simply relaxing and watching TV. Maybe you should cut that out and spend the time with your kids instead of doing that. You know what I mean?
Yeah, you get that for sure.
Yeah, we just talked about that. We did a show on gifts for the entrepreneur this Christmas, and one of them we were talking about, like, because I get in trouble sometimes if I forget to tell her that I have something going on, because I might, I have it in my head, oh yeah, I got to do this, but all of a sudden I spring it on her 5 minutes before I walk out the door.
He's still living the bachelor life. He's still living the bachelor life.
And I know that's a problem of mine. That's an issue I need to deal with. And so one of our gifts was, hey, there's this whiteboard that you can write all the stuff out so that your significant other can see it also, and your kids can see it. Everybody knows where dad's going to be on Wednesday.
That's cool.
Dad's got to run out of the house. So it just makes it a little bit easier for people to plan their heads around it. And that way, nothing else is going on during that time, and at least everybody knows what's going on, and everybody knows each other's schedules.
Yeah, my wife and I, we tend to usually our Sunday evenings is kind of our downtime. That's usually where I start to plan out my week and figure out exactly what I have to get on my books as far as how I'm going to plan it out, how am I going to schedule it out. But we actually talk about it then. She'll ask me, I'll ask her, what do you have going on this week?
Yeah.
Do we have anything? And then sometimes we talk about the following weekend too, right? What do we have going on next weekend? Because I have to do this, or I was thinking about we need to do this. So we do talk about that on Sunday nights. That's when we do it.
That's good advice. So I had to steal this question. I had to borrow it from your podcast. It's a great question. Now, you have 2 older boys, Blake 22 and Brett 19. What do you enjoy most about being a dad, father? What do you enjoy?
The thing that I enjoy most about being a father to my boys is the relationship, watching the relationship that they have. They're brothers, they fight, right? And they do get into it. But they have such a cool bond. And to hear, I could, even today, my son will be home from college tomorrow night. They'll be sitting in the living room and they'll just be having a random conversation, and I'll be standing in the kitchen or in the next room and I can hear them talking, and just to hear them interact, just having just such a cool bond, it's almost like a best friend, a friendship, right? Don't get me wrong. They have gotten into it. I've had my wife yelling at me across the room to come over and break something up. And I've almost gotten myself beat. One of them's 6'3" and the other one's 6'2", so they're a little bit taller. I'm only 5'10", so they're a little bit taller than me. But I've had to literally wrestle them apart myself when they're going at it. But they're passionate.
They're passionate.
Again, that doesn't happen that often. But just what I enjoy most about it is just ever since they were little kids, just watching them grow and their bond grow and develop, and they're just the coolest of friends now, and I just love it.
That's amazing.
Awesome.
We get that.
What did you struggle with the most being a dad?
One of the struggles that I faced is because I was so involved in coaching, and I had my corporate job, I had my coaching, but I was also putting myself through school. And I found the balance of I had my older son on one team, I was coaching his team. I had my younger son on another team, I was coaching that team. So I had 2 teams that I was coaching, plus I had a corporate job that I had to work, plus I had night school that I had to go to because I was trying to finish my degree. Yeah. So finding the balance of doing all that was insane. It was a lot. Struggle's
real.
Yeah. I had a couple of things that came up over the last 5-6 years that were a real struggle for me as a dad. My wife, as I mentioned earlier to you guys, you know, as when we were talking about COVID and all that, my wife's a type 1 diabetic, but she had a heart attack about 6-7 years ago. She had a heart attack. And then 2 years after that heart attack, she lost her eyesight. And she
permanently.
Well, she lost it in one eye.
Oh my
she woke up one morning and couldn't see out of one eye. We went to the doctor. He said, "Oh, your pupil has detached."
Oh my gosh.
And so we need to reattach it.
Oh dear.
He performed the surgery and said it'll take a few months for you to gain the eyesight back in your eye. And it wasn't coming back. It was like, you know, 3 or 4 months had went by and it wasn't coming back at all. So we went to another doctor and he said, "No, that the surgery didn't work. And I don't know what doctor you went to, but he really messed up your eye."
Oh my gosh.
We thought about lawsuit and all that stuff. We're just dealing with so much. We didn't do it. But so he essentially destroyed her eye. So she has no eyesight in one eye. And then within a year, her other eye hemorrhaged and she woke up because she can't see out of one eye. She woke up and was completely in the dark. She couldn't see at all. And this is because of her diabetes. She had diabetic retinopathy, as they call it. But so she woke me up early in the morning and said, "I can't see." And I said, "What do you mean?" And she said, "I can't see." And she started crying. She's like, "I can't see. I have no vision at all right now. It's all dark." And we found a really good world-renowned eye specialist who we went to. And it took a few years of her going to see him every week for her to regain vision in that eye. And it was pretty traumatic, but the reason I tell that story is she's great now. She has good eyesight in one eye, enough that she could legally drive, even though she doesn't. She chooses not to because she's just too scared to. But
right, you kind of lose depth perception, right? With only one eye.
Yeah. So she does. I mean, she has a license, a driver's license, and all that, but she just doesn't drive. But anyways, the reason I tell you that is because during the time, especially when she had her heart attack and she was in the hospital, she had to have 5 stents put in. I had one of my boys was just a young teenager and the other one was younger than that. So I had young boys that I had to try to explain what was going on with Ma. And it was a very scary time because I didn't know how to explain it to them. I didn't want to upset them or think that she was going to die because she wasn't, but I didn't want to scare them because that was their mom. And really, you know, they have such a good relationship with her, a good bond with her that I didn't want to scare them. So that was a challenge. I will admit that was probably one of the biggest challenges I have faced being a dad.
Well, yeah, that's incredibly hard. I mean, we've had some issues, but losing your eyesight, I can't imagine a worse issue. I mean, that's overnight, you must have struggled with going to work or leaving the house at that point.
That's tough.
It's crazy because I still had to go to work, you know, I still was coaching. And she was so great about, she understood I needed to go to work. She knew I had to do that. She knew that I had committed to the coaching. She wanted me to do those things. She didn't want my life impacted because of what she was going through. But the thing that made it really difficult is that she's sitting at home because she's a school teacher. And so she was on disability because obviously she couldn't see. So she was on disability until she regained vision in that one eye. So she was home by herself with nobody. Both my boys are at school. I'm at work. Then I go to practice. They go to practice. So she's sitting at home by herself in the dark because she can't see. And that was a very troubling and dark time for us because she really struggled, rightfully so. She really struggled mentally.
Yeah,
absolutely.
But I mean, she's a trooper, man. She's an amazing woman. She's an amazing woman.
You know, I read about that you had some issues with your family, your dad growing up. What was your relationship with him, and what were the issues that you guys had growing up?
My dad was pretty hard. He was a lot of dads can be pretty strict, right?
Right.
My dad was very strict. My dad, really my parents, my dad more than my mom, but it's really hard for me to talk about because I don't have a good relationship with them right now, unfortunately.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's hard.
Yeah, and it's they made me feel as a child, as a teenager, and even into my young adulthood. They made me feel like I wasn't good enough. They made me feel like everything that I was doing wasn't enough. When I was in grade school and even in high school, it was, wow, you got a B+ in this class. Why couldn't it have been an A? It should have been an A-. Or why didn't you get an A in this class? It was that kind of treatment.
Right.
So it made me feel very insecure. It made me feel like I wasn't worthy. It made me feel like I wasn't doing what I was supposed to be doing. And so those kinds of things, plus being strict in how they treated me. I didn't get beat or anything like that. They weren't abusive physically.
Mm-hmm.
But it took a toll on you mentally.
But they were abusive mentally, because I just felt like I didn't amount to anything. And I mean, I did have an okay relationship with them as a kid. I mean, they were very loving, affectionate, that kind of stuff. And they're still together to this day. It wasn't like there was any divorce or anything going on. But
was there some alcoholism that you spoke about?
The alcoholism, my parents had struggled with alcoholism my whole life. And it's something that actually led to me. If, obviously you have a parent that's an addict, more than likely you're an addict, right?
Right.
Yourself. So, I had, I got out of school and went into the Marines, and in the Marines, they teach you essentially 3 things: how to cuss, how to drink, and how to fight. Right. So, so I did a lot of drinking in the Marines, and I got out and still continued to drink. I didn't think it was a problem until people started mentioning to me that it was a problem. And they wanted me to go to AA, and they wanted me to do all these other things to make myself better. But I didn't want to do that. I actually chose to stop on my own. I didn't want my kids, I didn't want my boys, because they were young boys, I didn't want them to see me struggle. And I didn't want them to be raised in an alcohol environment or an alcoholics environment. So I quit cold turkey. I told my wife, I'm done. I don't want to do this anymore. It was a struggle for me. Probably the first year was kind of a struggle, but I was so focused on what's best for my kids, and I didn't want them to be in that environment, that I knew nothing was going to change my mind. Nothing was going to get me to drink another drink. Nothing. Because my kids were that important to me. So that's essentially why I quit. I grew up in an alcohol environment. I grew up with an alcoholic father. I grew up with an alcoholic mother. My wife grew up with an alcoholic father. So that had been in both sides of our family, and I didn't want that for my boys.
You wanted to break the chain. I think that's really valuable to share right now. I mean, everybody's going through a lot, and I could see people out there struggling with alcoholism, and to have done that yourself, cold turkey. That brings hope to people.
Right.
It was hard.
Yes, it was hard. And listen, stopping cold turkey, what I decided to do, I made the decision to stop, and I haven't looked back. Almost 12 years later, I haven't looked back.
Wow. So amen.
That's great. Thank you. But that's not for everybody. Some people have it so severe that just stopping cold turkey doesn't work for them. So if you're in that situation, and I'm speaking to your audience, if you're in that situation where you're struggling with alcohol or substance abuse of any kind, seek help first. Don't try to do it on your own. Seek help first. Seek out a counselor, seek out an AA meeting, seek out other friends. Reach out to me if you want. It doesn't matter. But seek out help first, and then figure out what the right path is for you to make the decision to stop. For me, it was just my family, my kids were my passion, and that was it. I was done, and I made that decision, haven't looked back. But if it's somebody else is struggling with it, seek help first, and then we'll figure out a path for you.
Thank you for sharing that. That's
yeah.
good.
Do you think that, well, let's make this a two-part question. Do you think that what you went through as a child, that you felt like you had to overcompensate for that, and that's, or not necessarily overcompensate, but completely do a 180 in your life? Because I know some people, and what do you think made you do that or helped you to do that? Because I know a lot of people, what happened to them as a child, they carry that on. If they were beat as a child, they beat their kids. If there were drugs in there, how did you break that chain? And secondly, what did you learn anything? What did you actually get from your parents? Was there any positive takeaways, even with all the darkness that was going on?
Oh, thank you for asking that. Good questions. And gosh, it's hard for me to answer the first one because I don't know how I've done it. Even I've had people that are recovering alcoholics that tell me, I don't know how you did it without AA. I don't know how you did it without counseling. It's just, I have a way of
strong mindset.
When I have my mind set on something, there isn't anything stopping it. Now, maybe the military had something to do with that. My military training, maybe that had something to do with it. Maybe the fact that I'm that devoted as a dad that I didn't want to impact my kids in that way.
I think so.
I'm just, if I get my mind on something, it's not going to be changed. And probably the military probably had something to do with that, I think.
Right.
Because growing up before the military, like I said, I struggled with who I was because of how I was raised.
Right.
I always felt like I wasn't good enough.
The military will teach you how to break a habit for sure.
That's a blessing
if anything
in
will.
disguise, though. What a blessing in disguise that he goes off, he joins the military, and then that kind of creates that
actually
mindset.
Probably turned on the alcoholism a little bit, but at the same time, you learn self-control, right? I mean, the military will teach you. If anybody will teach you how to stop doing something, hey,
self-control.
That's not how you fold your socks. You fold them like this, and all of a sudden, that's how you're folding your socks for the rest of your life.
Right.
So yeah, I could see where that could happen. Now? There's got to be something that through all the struggles with your parents, even though you guys aren't talking right now, there was something that you took away growing up that you maybe want to implement or did implement into your kids.
Yeah. I will say this, my parents, even though I struggled with my relationship with them my whole life, my parents, I had mentioned to you earlier, my parents were affectionate towards me. They were loving towards me. My parents have always been that way. We love you. We care about you. They're very affectionate, physically, the hugs, the kisses, all that kind of stuff. So if there's anything that I took away from them, first, it would be how not to raise a kid because they weren't involved in my life really. Right. I can count on one hand how many parent teacher conferences they went to, how many sporting events they went to. I played sports all through high school. They didn't come to 3 events that I was in, 3 things that I played in. They weren't there. When I used to play soccer, before high school, I'd play soccer or baseball. I used to go to my practices with my friends' parents because my parents didn't go. So that's how uninvolved they were. So that they taught me that not to be that way, but they also showed me how to be a loving dad and how to tell my kids, I love you, how to show them I love them. Because they were that way to me.
I totally see. There's so many people I've seen that play out in their lives where their parents didn't go to any of their games, and they'd have to find a way to get to their game. And then now knowing them, they're the ones that are their coaches for their game, for their kids.
Right.
They've said, I'm not going to be like that. Did that just quickly, because I think about that for my kids. I've had kids I have 3 older kids that I did go to if I was home, I went to their game. I didn't miss a game. And then I have 2 kids now. And I know there's a lot of stuff out there about, parents shouldn't go to practices or don't need to go to practices. And, I weigh all that out because I don't know. I mean, what was it? Do you remember a moment where you were like frustrated about your parents not coming to your games and practices?
I did because, let me back up. The couple of times that they did come to my, whether it was a game or, I wrestled in high school and I played water polo. So if they came to a meet that I had, you have no idea how excited I was that they were there. So it made it that much of a more special time when they would actually show up, because I knew that they never did.
Right.
What hurts me the most, though, I got to be honest, as a coach now, and like I said, I coach at the high school level. I coach varsity basketball. My sons don't even play there anymore, and I still coach. And the reason that I do that is because I want to impact those players' lives, because I know there are players on my team that don't have parents that are involved. They don't have parents even coming to the games to watch them play.
Right. You're their parent as a coach. It
crushes me. Yeah. It makes me so mad, because I felt that as a kid, and I know what that feels like. And it's such a hard blow to those kids. So yeah, when my parents weren't there, it was so tough on me. So when they were there, it was great. Right. It was great. But I mean, I'll tell you a story. I had a wrestling meet. I'll never forget. I still remember this like it was yesterday. I had a wrestling meet. It was a Saturday afternoon. I went to go wrestle. I had 2 matches that day. I wrestled my first match and won. And then the second match that I had to go to was like an hour and a half later, but we had to sit around and wait. My dad didn't want to wait. He said, "Come on, let's go." And I said, "No, I have another match." And he goes, "Nah, let's go. We're done." I go, "Wait a minute. I want to stay and wrestle the next match." And he refused. He wouldn't let me stay. I was like I think I was in 9th grade or 10th grade. He wouldn't let me stay. So we left. And he didn't even give me a chance to tell my coach I was leaving.
Wow. And as a competitor, that's not easy. And I know you're a competitor because you have 2 big rings I saw on your 2 championship rings that I saw somewhere.
Well, one of them was my son's, because the crazy thing is, I'll tell you another story. When I took on the role as the associate head coach at the high school, my son was a junior. My younger son was a junior. And it was my first year as a head coach there, or a coach there. But that first year that I was there, we won the championship. So my son has a championship ring and I have a championship ring, and it's something that we'll have forever, which is really, really cool.
That's great. That's I saw those rings. I was like, those are definitely championship rings. That's not no tournament ring.
No, it's big old rings. We got to design them. And I joke with the team now, because I tell them, I already have the ring for the next year designed. So as soon as we win it again,
you win the championship again.
So yeah, it's cool that both of he and I will both have those rings forever. And it's just a special bond that we had. I have pictures I could send you, Dan. I got pictures of me and him jumping up and hugging each other after the championship game was over. He had probably the best game of his life. He probably dropped 5 threes. He had a couple of other points. He had a couple of steals. I mean, he just had the best game of his life. It was incredible. I get chills thinking about that game, because it was so fun. Fun.
That's great. 5 threes. That's definitely noteworthy for sure. Do you think fatherhood has changed since we were kids, since our parents? You think some of the things that you dealt with your parents are different than the challenges that we have as parents today with our kids?
Yeah. Well, for instance, when we were kids, our parents, if they wanted us out of the house, they'd tell us to go out and play, right?
Right.
Now kids are stuck to their iPads or their phones, or, all this technology that's available to them makes it such a challenge for parents. We can put restrictions on there, but we have no idea who's trying to reach out to them. We have no idea, what they're doing exactly. So yeah, that's a huge, huge challenge that we didn't face as kids. We used to go ride the bikes and, play football out in the street, and you had to be home when the street lights came on, right?
Right. Make ramps, no helmets. We'd make these ramps and jump our bikes off these ramps. And I think back at it now, I was just talking to my wife about it. I was like, I became an official ninja when I had to jump off the roof of my house in my ninja outfit. Like, if my parents knew I did that stuff, they would kill me, but I would never let my kids do that. jump
Oh
off
my
the roof at
gosh.
10 years old, jump off the
Gosh,
roof of my house.
building ramps. I mean, we had big steep hills at the end of our street that we'd ride down and then just fly off these ramps and try to clear people or tires or whatever you're trying to clear. We used to use newts and crates, the newts and milk crates. We used
Yeah.
to line those up and see how many of those we could clear. Oh man, I could tell you a million stories, but yeah, I would never let my kids do those things now. It's just too scary. It's just too scary.
Absolutely. I'm with you.
I think we've been really selective though about the devices. We haven't really faced that.
Yeah, I mean, he
didn't watch anything till he was 2, and
we try to be careful about that. And there is there's some people out there, especially entrepreneurs, that say, hey, this stuff's good. This is what the future is. These kids need to be learning on this. But I still think there's temperament there. Them playing video games all day or sitting on YouTube watching who knows what is not my idea of learning.
No.
It's like we'll have an educational show or something about animals or about the solar system.
And
we'll let them watch a show like that.
After.
But we absolutely do not let him watch these crazy kids on YouTube.
No.
It influences his attitude at 4 years old. We do not need him jumping up the ceiling.
Don't even say it out loud. Don't even say it.
Jumping off the roof of the house.
Yeah.
Well, listen, there's a social, they're lacking their social skills. They talking to their friends on their cell phones or their iPads. That's not the same. They're not developing the same social skills that we developed when we were kids, right?
Absolutely.
You had to talk face to face or over the phone, the telephone, the actual, the one that had the rotary dial thing, right?
Yeah.
So those kind of things, our kids aren't getting that kind of interaction. They're trying to do all their texting or all their Snapchatting or all their tweeting or whatever they're doing, right? Whereas, we didn't have that problem. So,
and I still think it's an undeveloped skill that should have, even when I was younger, it should have been cultivated more. A skill about, how to speak to people and how to, be able to deliver a speech or a conversation or sell something. I mean, none of those things were taught when I was younger.
Yeah.
Even though we're better at it, we were more adjusted because we, like you said, we did do that a lot.
I think.
But now today, what about the kids today? They're never going to have those skills.
Not all. I would have to say not all. I mean, I grew up in my mom's store, so I did it. I guess everybody's family is different, so I did have those conversations with adults.
Yeah.
Not really kids. I was missing out more on the.
I guess just overall as a whole, sometimes I say that's.
And we have a good balance with Daniel, where he comes to our meetings and stuff, and he has little adult conversations, and that.
Yeah, I think sometimes it's in today's world, it's something that's addressed because the entrepreneurs of tomorrow see what's necessary, and so you're going to have those distinct kids that stand out amongst the rest because there's more education out there for them today than there was back when we were younger. There's more availability to YouTube or mentors or whatever that might be. So yeah, I think but where you might see a bigger distinction between the people that are doing well and the people that aren't doing well, right? The loss of the middle class, maybe.
Yes.
I know you've interviewed so many people on your show. What do you think most of, or if you can kind of think back, what do you think were some of the regrets by dads that you've interviewed?
Oh, that's a good one.
Yeah, regrets that they didn't take their. As a matter of fact, I just had one a couple weeks ago that was mentioning this. He regrets. He knows how important it is to be an involved dad and a dad that's interactive with their kid, not just the hey, the passing hello or the passing hug, right? He regrets not doing that sooner because his kids are in the teenage years and he had missed out on them growing up, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 years old, because he was so busy trying to focus on building his empire, building his business. And so he regrets that he didn't realize how important it was to be the involved dad until they were later, they're grown up. When your kids are teenagers, this is what I tell dads, listen, when your kids are little, it's so important because that's when their minds are really growing, right? They're really developing their cognitive skills. All those kinds of things are happening to them. When they become teenagers, they don't want to hang out with you anymore.
No.
They don't.
So true.
You
It's
go
so
drop them
true.
off at school and they don't even want you to get out of the car, right?
Right.
So it's important to capture all that stuff, the attention with them early. I was just fortunate because I was coached on all their teams. So I was always around my boys. But a lot of parents, they experience that. They go, well, my kid doesn't want to hang out with me anymore. They want to go hang out with their buddies, or they want to go hang out with their girlfriends or whatever. Well, that's what you're missing out on. And that's why you shouldn't have missed out in the beginning. Because had you been there in the beginning, you probably wouldn't have this kind of disconnection now. You would have had that strong bond with them, and it would have carried that through their teenage years, right?
So dead on.
Yeah, totally dead on. So I'm a huge fan of affirmations, and I have been ever since they've been in my belly. And I know you're a huge fan as well. What made you start affirmations with your sons, and what's your favorite?
Well, my favorite is the one that I've taught my son. It's funny. I realized how important affirmations were early on in my corporate career, because I was trying to kind of look at doing other things outside of the corporate America. When I first started in corporate America, I really wanted to do something on my own. I really wanted to be an entrepreneur back then. So I started reading. I started doing a lot of reading and research on what it takes to be a successful entrepreneur. And, I was reading sales skills, Tom Hopkins and all those, all those old school guys, right? I used to go to Tony Robbins events and all these different things.
Oh, that's awesome.
So I learned affirmations through those guys, really. But my son, and you bring it up because you probably heard it, but my son, when he was a little boy, I started teaching him affirmations. And I said, I told him, listen, you're a leader, you're a champion, you're the best in the world if you truly believe it, right? And so ever since he was a little kid, we'd leave every night. He'd go to bed. I go, you're a leader, you're a champion. And then his response was, I'm the best in the world. And that's how he'd go to sleep every single night, right? The crazy thing is, he's 22 years old now. I could say that to him today, and he might roll his eyes, right? He might give me the eye roll at this point, but he knows what to say. He knows that's his automatic response. It's just triggered in his mind because I did it so much with him as a kid. It's just triggered.
Beautiful.
So you're a leader, you're a champion. He'd go, I'm the best in the world.
I'm the best
and it's just
in
that
the world.
Develop that belief system in yourself to help him be anybody that he wants to be. And now he's graduating 6 months early from college tomorrow. So he's graduating college. He's already looking at buying his first fourplex unit to be a real estate investor. He's already working at a company that he's doing online. He's doing remote, so he does remote sales, kind of in the pharmaceutical industry. But he's already in sales. He wants to be in sales. That's what he wants to do. He wants to get into sales in some way, whether it's his own business.
Best job in the world.
Yeah. So he's already doing that. He's been doing it for about 3 months now and making good money while he was finishing up his college degree. And now he's on a roll. I'm super excited for him. I mean, he has plans on moving out of the house when he'll be home tomorrow night. So he has plans to move out by the summertime, next summer. We'll see how that goes, but he's that driven as a kid. And I honestly believe I can't take all the credit because his mom's a superstar mom, and she really, really has a good bond with him. But I will say that developing those affirmations with your kids are so critical and important because and help them understand it, help them understand what they mean, help them understand why you're saying them, right? Don't just say them. Got to help them really understand it. So they're really cool. Thank you for bringing that up.
Yeah. Have you read Bo Eason's book, No Plan B for Your A Game?
No, I have not. I need to.
Oh my gosh. You have to get that book. All right. No Plan B for Your A Game by Bo Eason. You will love this guy. He's an ex-football player who's now a speaker and a mentor, and he's just incredible coach. An exceptional father. Yeah, he's just really good. I mean, you'll love this book. Awesome. It's probably one of my top 3 books of all time.
Wait, really quick. Any other rituals or morning? I'm having mom brain. Morning rituals.
Morning rituals.
Morning routines that you and your wife, or you or your wife, did with the kids, other than affirmations. Anything else that you?
My wife's really good at her. She would go in every single morning and wake them up when they were younger for school. and she would rub them on the back until they woke up and say her little good morning sunshine to them thing to them every single morning. I'm the dad, so I can't kind of be that girlyish to them, I guess.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
That's kind of mom. She's really good at that. But no, I mean, our morning rituals, I mean, they went to school where she worked. So they would go to school with her before she lost her eyesight, obviously. They would go to school with her. I mean, it was just a cool thing with having them in school with her. They went to the elementary school. She was a junior high teacher. They had to have her as a junior high teacher eventually.
Oh, that's great.
That's awesome.
They must took a little heat over that.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, our morning rituals, we were together as a family the whole time, from when they left, from when they got up to when they arrived at school to their school days. I mean, it's kind of hard to get away from mom and dad and then they come to me for practice or games, right?
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Well, you know, right about now, they're just about to get away from mom and dad. I know a lot of families struggle with this, and I've seen this so many times on whether it be on the news or stars or movie stars or people I know. Lots of times when the kids leave the house, the husband and wife don't seem to have any reason to stay together at that point, and you see a lot of divorces happen at that point. What do you and your wife do to keep your relationship strong?
Well, that's a great question, and you're right. It's it does happen. I will tell you, my wife, well, my younger son's a freshman in college, right? He plays college basketball for Hope International University in Fullerton. So I was very excited that we were going to be empty nesters until my older son graduated from college, right? So I was looking forward to it. And then COVID hit, right?
Right.
And they essentially canceled my son's basketball season. They said, you can't move on campus. So he's been home the whole time doing online learning. So far, empty nester is out the door, and now my older son's coming home from college, and I don't know how long he's going to be till he's gone.
Wishful
but
thinking.
I will tell you this: it's super important. I mean, everybody's talked about it. You got to go on dates with your spouse, right? Ours used to be the movies. We'd go to the movies just about every weekend.
And that's out the door too.
Yeah, since the movies have been closed. But my wife, I'll tell you something. My wife and I have done for the last almost 2 years now. And we've done this not because we were struggling as a couple, but because we wanted to build our relationship stronger, because we knew what we were facing when we were becoming empty nesters. We got a marriage coach.
Oh, that's
wow,
smart.
really?
So we started seeing a marriage coach, and we see her once a month. It was once every 2 weeks, but we only did that because we enjoyed it so much. Now with our busy schedules and stuff, we are super busy that the marriage coach is like, why don't we just do once a month? And so we do that. So we meet with her.
You guys are doing so well.
That's awesome.
So we meet with her once a month, and we talk about marriage skills. We talk about different things. You know, first she asks if there's anything we need to discuss or anything that's come up that needs to be talked about. But we talk about marriage skills. We talk about, she has a book that we're reading, and it's just cool. We love it. We actually really enjoy it. She's a great coach. And so if parents aren't doing that, I highly recommend it. Because listen, athletes have coaches, right?
That's right.
People that go to the gym, a lot of times they have trainers they're working with, right? We have coaches at work. When you're in corporate America, you have a coach, you have a boss, right?
Right.
So we have a marriage coach because it's just cool. It just keeps us in line. So that's
I mean, start a marriage coach before the problems start, right? I mean, that's
And my wife and I don't have problems. We love each other. I mean, we love being together. We love hanging out with each other. We don't have any issues.
Yeah.
But I just felt that a marriage coach is great because it helps solidify and helps build our bond stronger and teach us techniques, because our marriage, through the things that are changing in society, your marriage can change. We have kids that are going to be out of the house, right? So our marriage is going to change because it's going to be a completely different environment. So, the marriage coach, we've been, like I said, almost 2 years now, and we love it.
I love the idea. I'll probably get beat up at it, but learn about all the things I'm not doing right. I'm ready for it though. We always try to do, we talk about all the things that we want to do better, and we verbalize a lot, and I've gotten better at that. I think when we first got together, I wasn't so good at that. You know, I was this lone entrepreneur who had never been married, and although I'd had kids before, but I just wasn't good at it. And I wasn't good at to people tell me what to do, or, you know, or discussing my ideas with somebody. They were my ideas, but I realized through that being married, that it was, I'm like, wow, you know, I realized what I was missing when we got together, and how much more, how I enjoyed that process more. And I'm still getting better. You know, there's still a lot of things I'm not perfect at, but I enjoy the process for sure.
But to know that, you know, the people around you, they're like, I've never seen you happier. Especially when these two little ones.
Do they say that?
Yeah.
Oh,
your mom,
good.
your dad.
Well, that's good. Yeah. Happy wife, happy life.
Yeah, listen, we're not going to be perfect. I'm not perfect as a husband. I'm not perfect as a dad. I make mistakes all the time. And my wife's not perfect. You know, she's not, she makes mistakes as a wife. She makes mistakes as a mom, but this is part of life, right? We're human beings. We're going to make mistakes. But how do you fix it? How do you change the corners so you don't make those mistakes again?
Right.
And having a marriage coach, being the way that we are with our kids, is just super important to us, and it's helped us.
Right. I love that. Thank you for sharing that.
Thank you.
What's the most important thing to you about raising your kids?
Well, the most important thing to me now is, well, when they were younger and growing up, is the most important thing to me was getting them to a point where they were productive members of society, right? We all want our kids to be productive kids, be productive young adults, to have a career. We all want them to have that good life. And so that was important to me when they were growing up. Now, what's important to me is making sure that they understand the responsibilities that they're about to face. My older son's graduating college. He's about to go into the real world, right?
That's right.
In college, mom and dad paid for a lot of his stuff. I paid for his car. I pay for his car insurance. I pay for his cell phone. But a lot of that stuff's going to go away. It's going to be on him. So now he has to learn how. So that's what I fear it right now, because I'm really nervous about how he's going to handle it. I think he's going to handle it well.
I think so.
But I'm excited to see him take on those responsibilities.
Yes.
And, my younger son's still got a few more years, but it's going to be cool. I'm looking forward to get him off the payroll, right?
Yeah, free up some of those funds. Daddy can go get his Corvette.
Right?
No, it'll be no, that's you know, it's always you know, it's a sad moment, but it's a great moment too for them. But it's a sad moment for yourself. But it's a happy moment. You know, you're thinking about that free time too.
So many emotions, for sure.
No, my wife, if my wife had it her way, they wouldn't move out of the house until they're 35, 45, right? But I'm like, no. I gotta, you know, I love my boys, but
I got some golf games I gotta take care of.
on the calendar, because then we're gonna get him out.
Right.
So
that's cool. Great. So, you know, I know we love our kids. We all love our kids so much. And, you know, when I think about it, I think about what I want for my kids, and I hope that I'm always doing the best for them. And I always want to give them knowledge. You know, sometimes what I say to other people is not as good as what I say to my kids. And I want to get better at that. And I try to get better at that. You know, I don't know how to, we say sometimes, and this is a question we ask everybody on the show. If you were on a plane and you were flying and you were talking to your kids on the phone, and you knew that plane was going to go down, what's that one piece of knowledge you would want to leave with your kids? I know you wouldn't have a lot of time, but that piece of knowledge that they would always know, and that they knew that they got from you, and that would help them take on the world at that point by themselves because you've moved on.
Wow, that's something scary to think about, huh? I mean, it can happen in any moment, right? I mean, you could be even driving down the road in a car. You can have. That's why it's so important that you say, you know, you tell your family you love them when you're not gonna see them for the day.
Amen.
You give them that kiss on the forehead, or that kiss, you know, on the cheek, or whatever it is, and tell them how much you love them.
Yes.
But if I was in that situation, I think my first thought would be, my boys looking out for their mom. And I would want my boys to know, I raised you how to be a man, and I raised you how to take care of yourself. But I've also raised you how to take care of other people. I've raised them how to treat other people, how to take care of other people. So I'd tell them, you need to look out for your mom. You need to take care of your mom. I'm not going to be around anymore. You need to step up and take care of your mom. That would be my first thought.
Absolutely.
I'd want them to know that I love them. I'd want them to know that I love them. I want them to know that I will always be with them. Mm-hmm. But that I would want them to know that they're there. I've raised them well enough to take care of themselves and to take care of others. Take care of your mom. That's what I would tell them.
You know, my dad told me that recently. He's been battling cancer, and he told me that recently. And it's I guess it was a little bit, I was taken back a little bit because I was a little scared, you know, that when somebody says that to you, because all of a sudden mortality kicks in, you always think you're going to have your dad around. And then when he says that to you, it makes you think for a second.
I think it's also an instinct thing too. My mom and dad, they weren't together, so I had a single mom, and I remember my brother at such a young age always trying to take care of me and my mom as a teenager, just going extra, everything he did.
Yeah,
just to take care of us.
It's great when you're brought up with those values,
a young man,
because it usually comes from you doing it, you know, living by example, right? Because you took so good care of them that they want to take care of people around them.
Took really good care of us, so it was just instinct for him. So
if you could leave one book for your kids that would help them with their life, that would help them going forward, what would that book be?
That one's easy. The Bible.
Oh, that's a good one.
I love it.
That's
a mic drop.
Right. My boys have always been raised in a Christian household. And they know how important the Bible is to them. They know how important their relationship with God is. But if I had only one book to leave, that would be the one that I would leave, because I know it's the one that will guide their life in the direction it's supposed to go. And I know it will teach them things that they don't know, and it'll teach them things that they should know. So that would be the book that I would leave for them.
That's a mic drop for sure, Bryan. That's I mean, there's so many lessons in that book. People don't know. Yep.
They're all in there.
All the answers. We say this all the time. All the answers are in the big book for sure.
That's right.
Hey, Bryan, thank you so much for coming on the show. We were really excited to get you on here. We needed to get an expert on here because somebody who's heard it all from everybody.
Well, I have to tell you, we've went through a lot.
Some incredible challenges in there, and you're doing beautifully.
Well, thank you very much.
And your beautiful boys.
Thank you very much. I love you guys to death. I really appreciate you guys. You know, it's been I tell you, like I said earlier, I was super honored and super excited when you asked me to come on. You guys are the best. I really do appreciate you having me on. And, you know, this is cool. I get to talk, you know, a lot of times I'm interviewing other dads, right?
Right.
Hello. Bye. I get to talk about other dads, right? And talk about their experiences. It's not that often that I get to talk about my own experiences. So it's really cool. I really, really thank you guys. And I hope you guys have a blessed
Bryan,
holiday.
Yeah, you too. Don't forget to listeners. Don't forget to don't miss the Dad Up podcast. It's an incredible podcast. I've been on it. Look for our episode. Also, I love the episode where he interviews his brother-in-law, Ed Mylett, but there's so many other great episodes on there.
So much value.
Yeah, lots of value. We're regular listeners here, and we're always all trying to get better. We can always try to be better dads. Where else can they find you, Bryan?
Yes, how can our audience support you? Do you have anything that you'd like to share?
I know you're working on a book.
Yeah, I'm in the very early stages of a book. Probably in the next couple of years that'll be out. So that's down the road. But that's where my mindset is, right?
Right.
There's actually a couple things I'm working on. Until COVID hit, I wanted to get into doing father kid retreats where I'd take the dads and take their kids, and we go on a camping trip, and I'd have speakers come and talk to them, and then we do activities. So that's all down the road too. But
fun.
Yeah, thank you. But where you guys can find me is obviously my main feed is Instagram, Dad Up Podcast. That's my name. And then on there, they can go to my link tree and find out all the other places. I'm on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, TikTok.
Are you dancing on TikTok, Bryan?
No, I'm not doing any of that. I have a lot of my podcasts I post there, and my dog I post on TikTok.
That's
Oh,
fantastic.
that's awesome.
That's
Okay.
great.
Well, hey, if I see you dance, I'll start dancing too.
Right.
As of now, yeah, I'm not doing it either.
Well, we'll have to do a duel or something on
Yeah.
TikTok.
You know.
Okay, Bryan, thank you so much for coming on, brother.
Thank you guys very much.
Talk to you
I
again
appreciate
soon.
it. Take care.
Thanks for listening. Please subscribe. We love you.